right, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and kick things off here. So first and foremost, thank you for taking time on a Friday morning. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. So thank you for that. We're very grateful. And on behalf of IHFRA, I'm excited to welcome everybody. Today's webinar topic is something we're all becoming probably way more familiar with than we care to admit, but it's just utilizing AI and how to use AI as a professional sales rep, and how to use it and implement it into your day-to-day workflow. So before we get started, a couple quick housekeeping things this morning. We'll leave time for questions at the end. However, I think, Micah, if you're cool with it, I'm going to have them just drop it in the chat as we go, and you might pause and address them as they come in. We are recording today's session, so we'll send a replay out following the webinar. And Micah has also generously offered to hang out for a few minutes after the schedule closed, so just answer any additional questions. That way, we don't overwhelm the formal session, and we kind of just keep that tight. So with that, let me introduce today's presenter, Mike Ray, co-founder of D4 Concepts. Micah advises design, construction, and service-based small and mid-sized businesses on strategy, leadership, and AI readiness and preparedness. His career actually began in a family furniture business before taking him to Liberty Hardware, where he developed deep experience in strategy, innovation, operational leadership as the company grew to from roughly 10 million to more than 200 million. In 2019, he co-founded D4 Concepts to help businesses identify and solve the problems holding them back. And today, through D4's AI strategy practice and his work as co-founder of Zyflow, Micah helps companies understand their strategy and process before simply throwing technology at the problem. So he is a certified giant worldwide guide and regularly works with industry associations and leadership teams. I met him earlier this year at the ICFA conference. Fantastic at what he does. I know everyone's going to really appreciate this. So before I keep rambling on here, I'll stop there and turn it over to Micah. So what I particularly like about today's conversation is that this isn't intended to be AI for the sake of AI. I think Micah helps furnishing reps and firm owners put AI on the job that they actually have. So today, he's going to cover the basics every professional sales rep needs to start using AI without the fear or intimidation factor. I know that's something that I've personally struggled with and continue to struggle with, if I'm being honest. Technology evolves so quickly. But he's going to also show us a couple of live examples of how it can actually be put into work. So with that, Micah, thank you very much for making time today, and I will graciously turn it over to you. So thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It's been nice getting to know you and other folks through ICFA and IHFRA, and we're right here in High Point, in furniture capital of the world, and furniture and the furnishings industries near and dear to my heart and my past, and so it's been good working with all the folks I've gotten to meet to this point. Thanks for the opportunity, and there will be a lot of stuff in today. There's going to be slides. This will be recorded. You can go back and watch it. The good folks there at IHFRA will send along a link where you can go back and look at it. If you want to take screenshots, or even after this is over, you'll have my email address. If you want to hit me up with questions, I'll do my best to answer those. And we're just going to jump in and give you a bunch of value today. There's really just two things we're going to really talk about and teach you and kind of show you live on this demonstration. And I'll pause a couple of times, and you can put it in the chat. And then at the very end, we'll let you take yourself off of mute and ask some questions. My experience has shown me over the last 2 years of teaching about AI, there are so many questions around this topic that if I stop and take people off mute like halfway through, it turns into like this 10 or 15 minute conversation. So we'll save those for the end, and I've got my calendar blocked to stay on some time afterwards so I can answer questions at the very end. So, and hopefully hopefully we can help you get over some of that fear or intimidation, or I think a lot of people just, they don't know where to start. Like where do I start? Or, hey, I've used it kind of in this sort of way, but I know there's got to be a lot more advanced usage that I can get out of it. And so we'll talk a lot more about that. I'm going to share out my screen, and then I'll talk you through some of these slides and kind of talk you through some of the tools that we're going to show you how to use. I will promise today this is not a pitch for my services or my products. There is a AR webinar series that we're going to do a little bit later on. I did it once before, and I think some IHFRA folks got a lot of value out of that. Steve can probably speak more to that than I can. Any feedback that he's gotten from folks that have taken it before, but these are some of the things that I'm teaching other reps and people in the industry to do with AI. Just the conversations I've had, I've gotten I know a little bit more about you, your industry, the way you work. And so my job is really to understand what customers need, what our clients need, and then start to turn that into things that really work for them. And I'm going to give you a couple of different ways that you can use it today. And there'll be prompts on the screen. You can kind of model those. If you want those, if you want full version of those, just email me, or I can pass them along to Steve or whatever. So I'll tell you a little bit more about the series that's coming up at the end. All right, so in the chat, put in there like what AI tool you use. It can be Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or GLM or Kimi, or like there's a lot of them out there right now. So which tool do you most often use? And then how often do you use it? Is this like you've gotten kind of in a daily habit of doing it? It's like, hey, once a week or so, I kind of log in and try to play around with something, or you're just like, you know what? It's just so overwhelming. I've never even used it. So I'll just watch some of the comments coming in just to get a feel for who we're talking to. Daily, okay, good. Got some folks that are in there every day. That's good. Got some nevers, some weeklies. Yeah, this is very common. Like I've been speaking on this topic now for a couple of years, and anytime I go into a group, it really runs the gamut. Like there's just people who are just like, I don't even know where to start, or I'm afraid of it, or I've heard negative things. There are other people like myself, early adopters, who are like, yeah, I've been using this thing for 3 years now. That was me. Like the month after it came out, I was in there, very first part of 2023. So hard to believe. It's been 3 years now. Weekly co-work and code. Awesome. That's awesome. Co-work. I love co-work. It just allows you to do so much more stuff when you install it on your machine. Okay. Good. Yeah. Just learn to use it as a tool. There's a lot of information out there. I don't know about you, but even me being in the industry, it's overwhelming sometimes. Like it's all going to change again tomorrow, and then it's going to change again on Monday, and it's going to change again the day after. The industry is moving so fast. And so what I want to give you today is just really some practical ways that you can begin to use it and get familiar with it, and really start to feel like it's making a difference for you and your business. All right, so while you've got the chat open, drop this in there. What's one admin task that just really eats up your week? Okay, so it may eat away at your energy. You're just like, I hate doing that. Right? What's that one thing that you just hate having to do? It either eats up your energy or it just eats up your time. You're just like, man, I'd rather be out talking to people, or I'd rather be making deals, or I'd rather be talking to manufacturers, but this one thing just eats up my week. Okay, I put some examples down at the bottom, but what's that one thing that when you look across your week, you're just like, you dread it, or it's just going to take time, or you have to block time for it because it doesn't get done? Give me some examples of what those are. Emails, sales reports, follow-up. Yeah, follow-up is really difficult because, depending on how many emails you're getting, like emails can just drop down in the chain, and then like you miss one that slips through the cracks, and happens to me all the time. Scheduling meetings. Yeah, scheduling. I just don't even like doing scheduling. I usually give it to an assistant, or now I've started to use AI for a lot of that. samples, all the above. Yeah, that's yeah. Those admin tasks just really bog us down a lot of times. And I know just from talking to people in your industry and people who do what you do, most of you didn't get into the business to sit behind a computer and have to punch stuff in and keep track of stuff and all of that, right? Like, there's a reason why you got into this business. It's, to meet people and to sell and talk to people and, those relationship kind of things that are important to your industry. I think that's why AI is super duper important is that if you can have it do some of that stuff for you and free up your time to actually go meet with a retailer or go meet with a manufacturer or, call on somebody new or do some research about somebody that should be, in your prospect list. Having those admin tasks kind of either sped up or in some cases, I think they can be handed off. I'm starting to hand off admin tasks of my own now. It's kind of building the system out for that. So we're going to talk about a couple of different ways to do this. We'll talk some about email. We're going to talk about how to make those emails sound more like you and to have the information it needs so that those emails are what you want them to be. And then we're going to talk about just managing spreadsheets, like data on spreadsheets. And one thing I find is really difficult for people. We're going to give you kind of a shortcut there today and kind of show you what's possible. And we're really going to focus on this one idea because I find that a lot of people started out using ChatGPT and then eventually Claude and Gemini and some of the others. They tend to use it as a way to ask questions. We've been trained over the years to ask Google a question like, hey, where's the closest restaurant? Or, what furniture retailers are in Salt Lake City? Or give me a manufacturer who sells, right? Now we just ask it a question and it gives us back a bunch of results, right? So I ask a question and I get these results back and the results are just web pages. But now something has fundamentally shifted and AI is not just a search engine. It can do searches for you. It can find information. It does research. I use it to do research all the time, but it is so much more than that. And often we start off asking very generic questions, right? So I put an example here on screen. If I went to ChatGPT right now and said, write a sales email for me, and it might come back with a question because that's just too vague too generic of a prompt. And so ChatGPT might say something like, what are you selling? And I'd say furniture. Okay, so it's going to write an email that looks kind of like this. Hi, looking to refresh your space with furniture that combines style, comfort, and lasting quality? We offer a range of thoughtfully designed pieces. If you're furnishing a new space or ready for an upgrade, I'd be happy to show you some options. Would you be open to a quick conversation? Right? Like, cool, it wrote an email for me. It's pretty generic, right? Like there's not a lot of meat in that. It sounds like anybody could have written it about anything, right? So this new approach is more than just asking it a question. When you can start moving from asking it a question to start handing it a job or handing it work to do, that's a real unlock for your productivity. There are ways now in all of the AI engines, the LLMs, they're all getting so smart and they have so many different skills now that they can use that you can actually hand it work to do and it'll actually do the work in the file and hand you a file back. And so now I'm not just asking a question, say, hey, what would a good email sound like? And then just like copy paste and then have to rewrite it and it's not quite right. And, we kind of go through all of those steps. It can actually do the work now. And I don't ever start with a blank document or a blank spreadsheet or a blank presentation like this anymore. I work with AI and it builds like 80 to 90% of it. It builds the actual file. It creates the actual file. And then I just can go in and change the wording and make it look a little bit better, or like even the branding. And we'll cover this in the future, the AI webinar series, is how to teach it what your brand looks like and how you want it to sound. And when you can do that, it can actually start to do real work for you. Okay, so first thing to kind of keep in mind is this is way more than just a search engine. If you're looking for information, Google can give you that. There are other search engines. You can use AI for that. It's not a bad use for it. But when you really start unlocking productivity is when you start handing it work to do and it actually completes the work and gives it back to you. Okay. It's just like having a new employee. It's like having a new assistant. Okay. And think about this, that I've started talking to clients about this. I just wrote about it this past week in my newsletter. You know, if you approach this AI tool like it's a new hire, you're going to be way ahead of the game in how to use it and how to leverage it for your purposes. Okay, so if I was to bring in a new employee into my organization, I don't walk them in the first day and sit them down and load them up with all this stuff that they're going to send directly to the customer or the client or the manufacturer. Like I give them very little responsibility at the very beginning because I want to spend some time training them, onboarding them, preparing them, teaching them about my company, my business, the way I work, what I do, what I don't do, whatever policies are in place. You know, so I wouldn't do that for a new employee. I wouldn't just like drop them in, just give them everything to do, the most complex thing to do. So why would I do that to the AI? So if you can start to think about this AI as it's like a digital employee, like it's over there doing work for you, but you also have to onboard that employee. You have to train them. You have to, you have to give them a little bit of more information about your business before you can actually expect them to do the work. The way I've heard it explained, and I've heard a lot of people use this different analogy, is the AI has a PhD in everything. Okay, like you could list like 100 subjects right now, and the AI has a PhD in every one of those. It has tons of knowledge. It can access lots of knowledge. Okay. But if you bring somebody with a PhD into your company on day one, they may know a lot of information, but they don't know the context in which they're working inside of that organization. You'd still have to onboard them. You'd still have to, tell them where the files are and tell them what you sell and what you don't sell. And you have to tell them, your pricing policies and, what your discount structure is and what territories you serve and, right? There's a lot of things you would have to teach that new employee on day one. And that's why context matters. Anybody ever used this or seen this as an illustration for context? If you took 10 or 12 people and blindfolded them or gave them a limited view of an elephant, one's touching the tail, one's touching a foot, and one's touching an ear, one's touching a trunk. If that's all they were able to touch and to sense, they would describe it very, very differently, right? But if I can zoom out and I can see the whole picture, then I can start to understand, oh, it's an elephant, right? If I was just to touch one small part of this huge animal, then I probably wouldn't be able to really accurately describe it. And so that's why context really does matter. And as you're learning to give work to your AI tool, assistant, system, whatever you want to call it, I've called it all of those things. Just understand that it's a very fast learning, fast working new hire, but it knows nothing about your accounts until you tell it. Okay, and so it knows nothing about your customers, your company, the way you do business. It just doesn't know that until you tell it. Okay, so it's going to need that context. And this is one of the things that we work with you to help set up. We won't do it today because it's a little bit more of an involved process, but typically this is one of the first things that I do with a client is just to really help them understand like how to build context and how to teach the AI something about yourself. Okay. All right. So tip number one, it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be super duper organized. You just paste it, copy it, give it just like whatever details that you have and let it make sense of it. Sometimes we try too hard to get it like perfect or get it just right before we give it to the AI. You don't have to, right? You can give it small phrases. You can give it a couple of words. You can just, ramble on to it. It'll take anything that you give it and it'll start to try to make sense of it. Okay. So this is one tip that I give folks is like, you just got a lot of stuff sitting around, right? Like you've collected a lot of stuff in email. You've got these disorganized spreadsheets. You got some scribbled notes on a call. Pro tip, it can read handwriting. Lots of times I map out processes for the people I'm working with, and I'll write notes on sticky notes and kind of lay the sticky notes out in the order of the process and just take a picture of it, give it to the AI, and the AI will actually read my handwriting and build a flow chart based on the notes I put down. Like it's crazy. It can use scribbled notes all the time. So, if like I had a bunch of information about leads or information about customers coming in, or just a bunch of notes, disparate notes about all this stuff, I could just type something like this in there. Hey, I'm attaching a pile of inbound, information about your inbound leads or your inbound calls or inquiries. There's a few quote requests. There's several inquiry emails. Read them, build a spreadsheet that I can download, 1 row per person with columns like name, company, date, what they ask about, what they want, how to reach them. If anything's missing, leave it blank. Don't make anything up. That's a really good tip there, is to put that don't make anything up in there, because all of these AIs are like people pleasers. They want to please you as much as possible. And so sometimes it'll make stuff up. So just tell it, don't make anything up. Okay. You can literally just type that in and just like drop documents in there or handwritten notes. You just drag and drop them into the chat and let it take all of that mess and organize it for you. Okay. So often we think we've got to organize it before we hand it over. I found that this is a great use for AI. I give it a lot of information and let it do the organization work, and then let it give back to me a spreadsheet that I can use. I've done this example live. We don't have time for it today, but I've done this example live and just give it like 6 different kinds of data and then let it read it and figure it out and then organize it and put it into a spreadsheet. Like, something that would take you 2, 3, 4 hours to do. Well, read this note and type it in, and read this note and type it in, or take this email and copy paste. Just dump it all in there, and like within seconds or minutes, it's just going to come back with a spreadsheet that's going to be much easier for you to use, or a list or a document. It doesn't have to be a spreadsheet. Okay. Let's think about this too. Like if I was just going to give it a task to do, and I know several people mentioned email. Let's just imagine I've got this, account, Harborview, and Denise is there, and she's asking about volume discounts on outdoor furniture. And that email comes over, and you're like, where do I start? Like she's asking like for so much, and like you got these thoughts running through your head, and like, well, I got this price for this, I got this price for that, but I do have a volume discount. And so often we get kind of stuck at like, okay, where do I even start this email? And probably some of you have noticed, like on your email programs now, say, help me write this. And it can respond kind of what it thinks to do, but the more context you give it, the better the response is going to be. Okay, so the bad version of a prompt to an AI would be something like this: write a reply to this retailer who's asking about volume discounts in our outdoor furniture line. It's just going to make up a discount, and trust me, you don't want it to do that. Right? You don't want it to be giving away discounts that are not appropriate for your business or for the manufacturer. So, if you write that generic response, you're going to get a generic prompt. You're going to get a generic response from it. It's not going to sound like you. It doesn't know your accounts, your lines, or anything like that. So, a better version, just give it a little bit of context right there in the window, right? Like right there in the chat window. This is the kind of thing I tell AI all the time. Just tell it what hat you want it to wear, what you want it to act like. You're an independent sales rep for, and just name your product lines. I sell this line and this line and this line and this line with these manufacturers. A longtime retailer named Denise at Harborview emailed asking whether we offered volume discounts in the outdoor line. Our policy: 10% on 12 plus, 15% on 25 plus, freight included over 5K. Reply in my voice, make it warm, plain, and direct. Confirm the policy, make it easy to order, keep it short. Right? So if you do something like that, you're going to get a much better response. Right? So let's just demonstrate this right quick. I'm just going to copy that. And I'm going to switch screens here. And probably some of you have seen this happen, but just as a demonstration of how different this is, I want to show you what this looks like. Okay. So let's find a little chat window that we can put this into. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this as a demonstration. We'll do one other as well, just so that you can see the difference here. Okay. All right. Let's do a new chat here. Okay. So if I take that first prompt, write a reply to a retailer. Okay. And as soon as I click that, it's going to start thinking about it and try to come up with, it's going to take retailer, discounts, outdoor furniture, and it's going to try to craft something, right? Not a whole lot of details in there, but it's going to kind of guess at it. And now I got to go back and fill in the details. Okay. Thanks for reaching out for our outdoor furniture line. That's not very specific, right? Yes, we do offer volume discounts. It just went in and assumed that, right? Pricing typically goes with order size. Now I've got to go back in. I got to fill this in. It did kind of guess at maybe I've got some volume discounts at different levels because I said volume discount. It's not specific though, right? So now I got to fill that in. To put together a quote, which items, which collections, approximate quantities, like it's just very generic at this point, right? Let's go back and look at the other one. If I was to take and copy the other prompt, and I'm going to put a little bit more information in it. Okay, so let me copy that one. Now let's go back here. You're an independent sales rep for, I'm just going to make up a name, one that I've used in other examples. You'll see this in some of the other stuff that I've done. A long-time retailer, Denise at Harbor View, emailed asking if we offer discounts. Here's our discounts. Make it warm, plain, keep it short. All right, so now it's got a little bit more details. I actually put in there what our policy is. I substituted out this fictitious name here for the sake of this example. So now let's see what it does. It gave me a subject line. That's great. Hi, Denise. Good to hear from you. Yes, we do offer discounts on our outdoor line. 10% off at 15% off. Freight's on us for orders over 5K. Just let me know what you're thinking. I'll get a quote over. Happy to help you figure out. Right? So he just went ahead and took that. I just dumped in. I didn't have to write the email. I just dumped in some details. And the more details you give it here, the better. I just dumped in those details. And now what I get back from it is nice, short, sweet, like because I told it to do that. The more details you give it, the less generic it's going to be when you get that response back. And when you learn how to build documents that have all that context in it and load it in ahead of time, it's even better, right? Because then it's going to have all that. It can just draw upon that knowledge every single time. And that's one of the best tips I could teach anybody is just give it some documents with all your policies in it and the way you like to sell and what your product lines are. And like the more you can put into documents and just give it to the AI, now it can use that as a database to kind of pull on when it's building stuff for you, when it's writing for you. And it's going to get so much faster that way. It's going to be, you'll be surprised at the results you get. I've fed this to mine and it comes back with stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that I told it that. Oh yeah, that is our policy, right? Like it knows, it knows and it remembers this stuff so much better than we do because that's its job. Okay. All right. Same thing works in ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot. Like I'm showing you some basics that work on any platform. I personally use Claude the most, and then for agents I use a different platform. But all right, so your turn to speak up. What kinds of context are you thinking? Like even just going through that example, what kinds of context do you think you need to give the AI about your work or your business? Okay, so just name me 2 or 3 things, put them in the chat. Things that you're thinking about, just kind of going through this like, oh yeah, I've got information about my business or about the way that I, rep certain products or product lines or whatever it is. What sorts of things do you need to put into your AI system that would serve as kind of background context for this digital employee, this new employee that you're bringing on board? Put those in the chat. What are some of the things you can think of? Yeah, price points, dealer locations. Yeah, location makes a big difference, right? You know, if you're in Seattle and somebody's calling you from Miami, that may not be your territory. It may not be, it's definitely not somebody you're going to drive over and see them on the weekend, right? Yeah, geography. Yeah, yeah. Tell it what level, what reading level you want it to write at. You can actually build that in your personalization settings, or like for all outbound emails, I want you to write them this way at a eighth grade level. Make it simple, short sentences. Like you can just tell that in your context document, load it into the AI, and then the AI just you're training it. And the people in the tech industry, they use that word, train. You have to train the AI, just like you train a new employee, just like you train somebody that comes in. Give it lots of details, give it context. Okay. Name of the business and the product. Absolutely. Like just start at the basics, right? If you have a website or if you have a landing page or even a LinkedIn page, it's great just to tell the AI, hey, go to this link, which is your website or your LinkedIn, and build a context document for what you see and learn about me on this site. And just let it write a context document for you and summarize it so that you can take and just copy that and paste it into other places. That way it knows your name, it knows your company, it knows what business you're in, what lines you rep, manufacturers you work with. The more, the better, right? The AI doesn't know that about you until you tell it, right? And so understanding that context is good. Anybody else? Yeah, customizable capability. That's a huge one, right? Like, is it you're just selling stuff just straight out of the box, straight off the shelf? What you see is what you get. Is there customization to it? I know from having looked at a lot of the catalogs in your industry, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's configurable. Talking to another sales rep, they're like, oh man, umbrellas, the bane of my existence. I don't know why, but they're so complicated for other people, right? Like, finishes and stands and heights and widths and shapes of the umbrella and the fabrics, and like it's a lot, right? Tariffs based on HS codes. Yeah, so you could drop that in there and say, hey, currently it's this. It expires on this date. I even have one of my AI agents set up that will remind me, like, hey, when this expires, just remind me the day before, or hey, when this happens, just remind me. Yeah. So those are the kinds of things. Product is like we could do a whole workshop just on product and catalogs and, and that sort of thing, right? So let's move on here. I would say some of the other things are like brand. Like, how do you want your voice and your brand to come across? Especially depends on what price point you're selling at, right? So if I'm selling an ultra high-end luxury product, then I probably want my emails and my documents to come across a certain way. If I'm mid-tier, then it may come across a different way. If I'm selling pure volume on container load stuff that's priced at that economy level, then I may want to sound totally different, right? Territories, catalogs, selling practices, who your ideal customer is. If you haven't done that exercise, who is my ideal customer? If I look back at the customers that I do the business with that I enjoy the most, that seem to be the most profitable, if I built a profile on them and then gave it to the AI and said, hey, go find me some of these people, or hey, when you write this way, or create documents that are kind of geared toward this kind of customer, that really starts to make it more pointed or more connected to your ideal customer. And I do that all the time, build an ideal customer profile, and then that way it just kind of knows who I'm talking to. All right, so in the first example, we're building something. So I gave it a prompt, and perhaps we built a file, or I dumped a bunch of messy stuff in there and it built me a spreadsheet, or maybe I gave it some details and it wrote the email for me. So it's kind of creating something on that side. Tip number 2 is, all right, let's hand it the file. Okay, so let's give it a file and say, do some work with this. From my experience, my own business, as well as talking to other reps and people in your industry, everybody has that file, right? The one you've been meaning to clean up, maybe for the past couple of years. You're just like, you've been putting it off. It's messy. It's messy. You kind of get around it. When you find an error, maybe you fix it. But when you scan through, you're like, I know I need to clean this thing up, but it's going to take me some time, right? So like, look at the example here on the screen, so first name is not capitalized at all. The last name is all capital. Okay, so that's kind of weird. The next one doesn't even have a first name. I just got a last name on file. When I look at the email addresses, there's one missing. If I look at the last purchase date, I've got 3 or 4 different date formats, depending on how I keyed it in or somebody else keyed it in or information that came from the manufacturer or on a sales report. Like, information, just data comes at you from all these different places. And then the items on the end, like, some of those, it's got a quantity to it, some of them don't. There's no standardization across this whole thing. And so if I was to go clean that up, I'd have to go in there, line by line, or maybe I could drag and drop and change the format on a column. But like, that's just gonna take some time, right? So what you can do is you can actually give it that spreadsheet, give it some sort of, prompt to say, hey, merge the duplicates, standardize dates, phones, and capitalization. Put a status on these, because it can look at that date and it can start to make some decisions. Oh, okay, well, if the last time they bought is last week, then they're active. Oh, if it's been 2 years ago, then they're probably dormant, right? If it doesn't have an order date at all, it just may say, there's no data. It's, they're a prospect because they've never even ordered from you. And then follow-up priority, depending on what you have in that file. This is a good one to go after, especially if you're in the sales business. How do I prioritize this list and know who to go after, right? Like, if they bought 15 things from me in the past year, then hey, yeah, they deserve some of my time. Last time I talked to them was 6 years ago, and they've never bought anything from me. Yeah, that might be lower priority, right? Or I may need to do some research to figure out if they're worth pursuing. So all those decisions you make, this will help you do it when you start to give it that messy spreadsheet, clean it up, and let the AI help you in your sales process, right? One tip here is just, if it can't find the information, or if it's something that you don't want it to guess at, tell it to flag it, don't guess at it, okay? Because when you run through the spreadsheet, if you give it that and say, hey, flag anything that you notice, but don't guess at or don't make up information to put in there, then the AI is going to come back and say something like this in the chat and say, hey, Coastal Home and Coastal Home Furnishings might be the same account, you decide, right? So it's just going to flag it. Just tell it, flag it. Don't make the decision. Just flag it for me. Same thing we do with a new employee, right? Like, if they don't know, you've been doing this 20 years and you know exactly Coastal Home and Coastal Home Furnishings are the same ones because, Bob's over there and Bob's been selling there for years. You may know that because you have that context. Your new employee doesn't know that, right? So don't let them guess at it. Just flag it. Hey, I know you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, and you got 20 years experience. Are these the same people or not? And then you can make that decision. Even doing that, just finding those and flagging them for you, that way you can spend more of your time going right after the things that are different, or the things that actually need your attention. You can take this list, clean it up, and just within minutes, now you've got a clean spreadsheet, and depending on what data you have in it, now it can sort, it can prioritize. You can find the ones you need to follow up with very, very quickly, or ones that have grown cold. You're like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe it. It's been a year since I actually talked to them or followed up with them. I need to put them on my list. Having good, clean data is going to help you run your business. It's going to help you make decisions better. And that's what I love about using these AI tools, is it can sift through all of that information and data so quickly, and then help me understand what I need to be focused on for the day, for the week, whatever that needs to be. So give it a file, tell it what the job is, give it very clear rules. That's all you have to do. And then when you send it off to it, then it's going to clean it up. I do have a live example of this one. If we get a little bit of time in the end, I'll show you what that looks like. And it's pretty cool the way that it works. I'll just show you the example. I won't actually run it right here. In the live workshop, I do this. So this is a dummy spreadsheet that I didn't actually prepare. I had the AI prepare it. I said, hey, make me a dummy spreadsheet, put these columns in it, and make the data all jangled up. And guess what? AI can mess up your data too. So I created this list, which is the customer messy list. Okay. And then you can just drop this in. And if we get a little bit of time here on the back end of this, I'll just drop this in and you'll see the difference between the first and the last. And you see this has got like 26 lines in it. I've got some data missing, some of these dates, some of these phone numbers are all different, right? And when you drop this in, like literally in seconds, it just goes through and like scrubs and cleans the whole thing. It's a pretty cool example. If I get time at the very end, we'll switch over to that and show you. But it can do it. You just give it the spreadsheet. When I say give it the spreadsheet, you just actually drag and drop it. Like just drag the file over and just put it in the chat, give it some instructions, and then away you go. It'll take it from there. All right, a couple things here at the very end. I know we're getting close to our time. I don't want to leave time for questions too. I won't go over this here. I do in the webinar, but for those of you who've already started using it and you're using it maybe daily or weekly, one of the best things you can learn to use is projects. Both ChatGPT and Claude have it. Gemini does it a little bit differently, and they do have some automated features called gems. ChatGPT has like custom GPTs, but projects are really good. I know when I first started using these tools, and I had 40, 50, 60 chats going, and they're over there on that left side. Now I'm trying to figure out which one was which, and if I want to go back and restart, or sometimes I'll just start fresh over again. Projects are a way to kind of keep everything around a particular topic in one folder or one place. But also I can train inside that project, hey, I want this project to be about this, talk this way, do this kind of work, ask me these kinds of questions. This project's just for this client, or this project is just for this product line, or this project is just for this manufacturer, or this project's just for my sales outreach 2027 plan, right? So it's just a way of building chats inside of a folder or inside of a particular place. So now that I can start to organize my work, but also I can organize the context, the information that I give the AI. I can give it information in this project or in this folder so that every time it goes to work inside that project, it knows exactly what it's about. It knows exactly what I need. It kind of has all the details of what I'm asking it to do. And that is a real time saver, and it also keeps you organized, because if you're not careful, these chats can get away from you, and you got like 40, 50, 60, 70 chats, and now I got to go back and search them and try to find, and it's just the time I did save, I just lost, right? Because I've got all these chats that I can't really make sense of. And so projects are a great way to do that. And I know this question often comes up too is, hey, now that I'm starting to use this, is this going to replace my CRM or my rep software or, manufacturing software that they've given me, or portals or whatever? It's really up to you, but I would say this kind of sits alongside it. Don't go replace anything just yet, especially when you're moving information from system to system. Hey, I've got my list that's in my CRM, and then I've got this over here from the manufacturer. How do I reconcile data? How do I move it back and forth? How do I make sense of my list versus their list? That's a great place for AI to work, is right there in the center of both of those files. So don't think about it as replacing something else. Think about it as managing all the different kinds of things that sit in between these systems. So I get my commission report, but then I've got my sales report, and then I've got an inventory report, and I've got a new product catalog. Like I've got all these things coming at me. How do I start to use AI in the middle of that to kind of help me manage those different pieces of information, to simplify it, to clean it up, to organize it? That's a great use of AI in any one of those situations. Okay. So I'm just going to answer 2 or 3 questions I know often get asked, and then we'll jump right into some Q&A. Is my customer data safe? That's a good question. We have to trust what the people are telling us, and trust that's kind of up to you. On the free version, if you're using free versions, it's your data or whatever you load up there it's open game for the LLMs. these things need lots of data and lots of people interacting with them to train the models. So if you're using the free version, it's game on. Like all your data, just it might as well be, sitting on a server somewhere in Palo Alto, and all the people there are using it. Paid version, there are some better limitations there. Be sure to go over into your settings, which is in either one of the platforms, ChatGPT or Claude. Go into the settings. There'll be a little thing in there about privacy where it says, can we use your data to train our models? The default is on, okay, which means you're going to let it use all your data to train future models. Turn that off, right? That just means they don't have permission to use your data to train their models. The security goes up to the highest level if you're on a team edition. So if you buy a team package and you got 2 or 3 people in your company, or if you got multiple people using it and you buy a team package, then the data's at the highest levels. Still, you have to change some settings on there, but once you do that, it's much more private, much more secure. Which one should I pay for? I don't know, just pick one that sounds like you or that's easy to work with. Try not to get hung up on the $20 per month. You'll never find another employee willing to work for you 24/7, 30 days a month for $20. You're not going to find it, right? Like any other time, if you're looking for an assistant, you may pay the assistant $20 an hour, right? This thing is $20 a month, and it'll do all kind of stuff. Where do I start when I've never used it? I get that question a lot also. Start by asking it some questions, or start just by having it write some emails for you. So, hey, here's an email that I wrote. Make it better, make it more professional, make it, sound more like me, like whatever you want to tell it, but just copy something, give it to the AI and have it clean it up, right? You can do a simple search, show me 10 retailers in Salt Lake City, Utah, right? Just give it a city and just let it go find them. And then I would say the other thing to start doing if you've never used it is don't just stop at the first answer that the AI gives you. Ask it follow-up questions. Okay, I see where you found me 10 retailers in Salt Lake City. Tell me which one of these have been in business the longest, and tell me which one of these actually has outdoor lines. And then let it go away and do some more research and come back. Okay, if I was going to draft a cold outreach email to each one of these 10 retailers, and here's my product lines that I sell, what would that cold outreach email sound like? So what you're doing is you're having a chat, you're having a conversation, and you're just building on what it gave you. I know a lot of people when they get started for the very first time, they ask a question, they get a result, and they're like, oh, that's it. Start a new chat, ask another question, right? These things can continue to chat about a particular topic over and over and over and over again. Now, at some point, its memory gets full, and you're best to kind of like copy some of the answers and go start a new one. But when you're just starting out, just practice like giving instructions and having conversations over and over and over again, like just as if you were chatting or texting somebody live. So practice doing it that way. I'll talk a little bit about the 4-part series coming up. Here's the 4 things in there. This will be in the recording. You can go back and look at it. It's September 24th, 1st of October, 8th, and 15th of October. That gets us past the ICFA show and before Furniture Market, like really close up to Furniture Market. But these are 4 Thursdays. You have a 9 a.m. or 11 a.m. Time that you can choose from. That helps our West Coast folks to have one a little bit later in the day. So either one of those, it's the same content. I'm going to be going through some of the same live examples. I will say if you sign up for one, but then you can't be at it and you want to jump into the 11 o'clock one, you can always email me and I'll send you a link to the 11 o'clock one as well, or vice versa. And we just had some people do that last time. We're like, hey, I got a meeting coming up at 11. Can I jump into the 9 o'clock? And I was like, absolutely. We give you that flexibility. We'll also cover some pro tips in there, plus live examples, and we'll have you do the examples and see what results you get. So this is more of a workshop type thing. And then I have Q&A at the end of every session that is really like consulting. Like people bring me problems on these calls and say, hey, look, I tried this, or I've got this situation, or, I got this new manufacturing list and what do I do with it? And I'm thinking about this. And so we actually take time in the Q&A to do some live consulting with people. And then we get these kinds of stories too. Like from today's session, if you just take away one thing that's going to save you an hour or two a week, like that's a win, right? From the last webinar, we were doing this live example of a spreadsheet cleanup, and I was kind of walking people through it. And while I'm talking to other folks, guy pops on and says, you know what? I had just recently put about 6 or 7 hours. I'd blocked most of a day to go in and clean up my customer list. Over 400 names, bunch of information. I followed the instructions that you gave me here on the webinar, and the AI did it while you were talking. Like while I was talking to other people about how to do theirs, it actually just did the work for him. He was just like blown away. He's like, you just saved me 7 hours. Like I was planning to spend all this time cleaning this up, and it actually did it for me. So, all right. So with that, if you want to pop a question in the chat, you can do that. Or you can take yourself off mute, whichever way you want to do it. And just fire away some questions. We got a few minutes left here, and I'm going to hang around also after this. So yeah, what are some of the first questions that you've got coming up? How do you see yourself using this, or what's one thing that you thought of while I was talking? You're like, oh, could I do this with it, or could I do that with it, or if I had this problem, how would I do that? Linking emails, yes. ChatGPT and Claude both have a thing now called connectors. So if you go into the left panel, there's going to be a way that you can connect other apps. They're adding more and more every day. But what you can do is you can connect it, and then when you connect it, it'll ask for your username and password, like in Yahoo or Gmail or whatever else. And then once you connect it, then it can actually read emails, and you can tell it, hey, you can read emails or you can draft emails, but don't send emails, right? Like you can change the permissions to what it can do. What I have it do is I have it put it in my drafts folder. Hey, draft a reply. It creates a reply, drafts it, and leaves it over there. That way I can go back and review it before I send it. And I've done that before. Like I come in and there's like 3 or 4 emails already in the drafts, and I'm like, cool. Like I just have to go in there and clean them up and send them, right? They're already written. Which programs I recommend? I personally like the way that Claude writes. So I use Claude, and I actually use the desktop version, which is, if you go to Claude, you can download Cowork, and it installs a program on your computer. That gives you a lot more access. It can actually put files, onto your hard drive. It'll build a folder. It'll put stuff in the folder. I love that because it does, all my drafts. It does 70 or 80% of the work. I just have to go back and edit and clean it up. And the browser version won't do that, right? It'll create it in the browser. Now I got to copy it. Now I got to download it. Now I got to save it. Now I got to put it in a folder. It skips all those steps. It just says, oh yeah, I'll write that for you. Here's the link to it. And it's on my hard drive, right? And I actually have it write files to Dropbox. That way, once it goes to Dropbox or a shared folder or Drive, Google Drive works great with Claude. It just works really, really well. It's very flexible. It's very smart. It doesn't assume as much as some of the others, I think. ChatGPT for a while it was very sycophantic. It was, oh, that's a brilliant idea. You're the best ever. I'm just like, no, I'm not. Spam and junk email. I don't know. That's a lot of the email platforms control that. So I don't know how the AI can do that. Now, the one thing the AI can do is if you say, hey, go clean out my spam folder for me and delete them all, like it can do that kind of thing. It can actually organize files on your computer too. Like if you download Claude Cowork, I've given it a file folder, like my screenshots file folder, and say, just clean up this folder for me. It goes in and makes subfolders. It can actually look at the images and classify them and move them into folders. So yeah, it's getting smarter and smarter about that thing. On the spam and junk email, those decisions are made at the server level for the email folks, and so it really can't it can't make the decision as to which one is which. What I've seen though is that if I have it read my email and help me make decisions about it, it'll flag some emails and it'll say, looks like you're getting 6 of these a week from this guy and you never read them. Do you want me to delete those or move them somewhere? So once the email comes into your inbox, yes, it can help you read those, flag those, move those. But so far as like stopping it from coming in, it can't do that. Okay, good questions. What else? It sends it through your email. So the question is, when AI is ready to reply to an email, does it send it through my email provider? Yes. It's using your email account and it's putting the email into your account. And then depending on how much, like once you've got it trained and like all the drafts are really good, then you can just kind of set it free and say, yeah, go ahead and send the email on my behalf. It sends it with your email address and it sends it out. I will say if you're having, like if you're doing cold outreach or you're like, hey, I'm just going to use AI and send out an email to 1,000 people tomorrow, the email provider will flag your account if it sees an inordinate amount of volume and it looks like you're spamming people or doing an email blast. You can get flagged at the domain level. Okay. Good question. What else we got here? Anybody else? See if we got any more questions. I will put this on screen too. Just to make it easy for you, if you want to, see how to, how to sign up, or if you want to just kind of hit this QR code and then, the 9 o'clock one's on the left, 11 o'clock one is on the right. This will just take you to the order page, and that way you can kind of see some information. We'll be sending it out via email. Steve will have the information. I've got a landing page. You can read more about it. But if it's something you're interested in, you want to shoot a picture of this or save the link, you can use a QR code there and save that for yourself. All right, Steve, back to you.
Yeah, Micah, thank you. And for those of you guys who are on the fence or considering that webinar series, some of the members that I've spoken to that have utilized it just spoke very highly of not just Micah, but just what they learned, and minds were blown. I'll leave it at that. In my conversations with Micah and just having him help me solve some problems for how I'm using it on a regular basis, I genuinely appreciate all that he does, and breaking it down for me and kind of explaining it like I'm 5. All right. So with that, what we'll do is, Micah, again, thank you for being so generous with your time today and sharing some really practical advice, and kind of removing some of those barriers or some of that fear, at least for me anyway, when it comes to utilizing AI in a more meaningful way. And again, thank you to everyone who joined. Again, just as a reminder, we did record today's session. We'll send it out in an email. We'll include the links to Micah's upcoming webinar series that are happening real soon. But before I end the call today, I would definitely recommend, if anyone else has those last minute questions, take advantage of this. I mean, it really is have been so incredibly helpful for me. But thank you again, Micah. So I'm going to officially close. I'll probably end the recording here, but I do want to leave it open here for another minute or so to see if anyone else has any questions.
Yeah, 2 or 3 people have asked, will the webinar series be recorded? Yes. I usually record the 9 and the 11, and I figure out which one went best and just post one of them because it's the same content. So your particular one may not be posted, but the teaching content for each week will be posted, and I give you a private link with a password where you can go in and you can watch them anytime you want to. So yeah, I do make all of those available. You can go back and watch if you miss a week, because I know how it goes. Stuff comes up, customers, clients. So yes, they will be recorded. And I will say for the Q&A time, I treat that as consulting time. And I always block an extra 45 minutes after the webinar is done. And people took me up on that last time. I did 40 minutes of Q&A a couple of times last time. And so people bring me real life situations and we work through them in the Q&A. That way, if you just want the training, you stay on for 45 minutes and you can hop off and go do what you need to do. But if you've got a real problem, I stay on for another 30, 40 minutes to really help you with problems. So it's part training, part consulting. And that's the way I've structured the whole series.
Well, I'm looking forward to it myself. So plan to catch me on there as well. So
I look forward to it.
again, thank you so much, Micah. We genuinely appreciate it. And again, thank you to everyone who made time today to jump on this call. I found it incredibly helpful. I'm sure everyone else did as well. And we look forward to seeing you again soon, Micah. And um, we'll see everyone again for our next webinar, if not in a couple of weeks at pre-market or the casual market, or certainly in October. So we'll see
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
soon.
I'll be here.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody.